Friends, welcome to our podcast. Today we will be discussing this strategy of how can we buy the right resale in this market. As we do know that the new launch market is not for everybody. There are obviously important family needs that come first. We need to sell our house, and in between that to find the right timeline for our next property. So how does this timeline really works? Where the perfect picture in real estate would be to, let's say, for example, right now, whether you're staying in a HDB or whether you're staying in a private condominium, the timeline is all the same. So how can we get this timeline fact right? So assuming that right now, just draw these two timelines here, the perfect scenario would be this. Okay, as we are selling our house, right? Selling our house, we also should be shopping for the next. So all these concurrently can be happening. Of course, a lot of pre-measures would be to shop first. Then again, we want to find something we like, then we start selling our house, nothing wrong. But there will be chances where good units, by the time we found them, and when we go back to starting our house, the good units could be sold. So what is the ideal picture here in every scenario is, if we have already found something, the best thing would be to shortlist at least 3 to 5 units, so that when we start selling our house, typically, if let's say, depending on your property and also on your location and many other factors, to range between 2 to 3 months to market the property and eventually get an offer. Right? And of course, the important part would be then the exercise. And during this period here, it is important to shortlist units that truly suits our needs. An ideal timeline would be that when we found a unit that we like, when a buyer makes an offer for our unit, we can start to negotiate for the unit. And of course, after the exercise, we can also proceed to exercise. And that is where the perfect picture should come in. Before we hand over the unit, we want to have the unit done up and renovated and move in. That's the ideal timeline. So usually before handover here, we try to request for some possible extension, or if not over here, we can have an earlier handover. And all these timelines are excluded of also your cash flow, and important, the move-in logistic. And this is only one part of the timeline, and depends also whether your property that you're selling, whether it is a HDB or private, as the handover time could be different. So if we go further to understand about the resale risk that we want to talk about today, resale risk. As we do know, let's say, for example, yes, you have done your maths and your proper gap method planning, and you are looking at, let's say, a property of, let's say, for example, today, 2 million in this resale market. So we will be looking at, let's say, for example, the next 4 years to sell. Okay, maybe let's say, depending on your plan, although you have no intention of selling, of course, if you have done your due diligence and planning, but in the event that, hey, let's say 4 years later, okay, 4 years, we want to sell. Can we say that when we reach our 4 years timeline, we definitely want to sell for a decent profit? If not, your 2 million over here, you minus off your interest, maintenance fees, agents fees, and other holding money, right? You definitely would not want to sell at a loss, right? Let's say, for example, we want to have a decent profit of, I think it's not too much to ask for, maybe 2.5 million. 2.5 million in 4 years' time. So having said that, of course, when we buy at 2 million, we also want to understand the existing 2026 market. Okay, what are the units that are sold and what are the units being marketed? So for example, there are already transactions happening at 1.9, maybe 1.85. and there are units marketed usually around maybe 2.1 or 2 million if we are lucky. So the idea is to find this, okay, the sweet spot for us to offer and to secure the unit at a good value. Having said that, the risk here is this. Today we expire, let's say for example, maybe Paul, 2.5 seems a little bit too greedy. To me, I am happy, let's say for example, 4 years later to sell my property at let's say 2.3 million. Oh, minus off stamp duty and so on. Okay, 2.3 million, your wish is my command, but let's see whether how achievable is this 2.3 million here. So if you look at, depending on how old the property is, how old, there will definitely be first owners who have bought the property at a way cheaper price. So yes, we are looking at 2026. The last transacted here is between the price of, let's say, for example, between 1.8 to maybe 1.9, this range in 2028, example, 2026. But there are first owners who have bought the unit, say, for example, way earlier than us, and they probably could have bought, I don't know, depending on how old the property, it could be maybe 1.2 million, 1.5 million, or maybe those very old properties, they could even bought it at 1 million. So I'm not saying that when they bought at a cheaper price, eventually one day down the road, in 2020, 2030, they will sell at this kind of price. Definitely not. But there are many ways and reasons why a lot of homeowners can choose to sell. Even at looking at, let's say, for example, they can choose to sell today. For those who bought in 1.2 million, they probably could do a choice of, let's say, for example, selling at 1.8. I don't know, those 1.5 million, probably they just want to exit at, let's say, a sweet spot of 2 million. And if they continue to sell at this kind of prices, for example, 1.8, 2 million, or maybe those 1 million, they just want to exit at 1.9 million, then looking at your price that you bought at 2 mil, my dear friend, how long would it take for you to get this group of owners to start selling at above 2 million so that eventually one day we can reach our 2.3 million? So the resale risk here is this. As long as there are earlier buyers, they can sell at a lower price because second owners would have to definitely sell at a higher price. And mind you, this is a situation where we do not know how your next few years is going to pan out. Even if you are just conservatively looking at a very conservative numbers of a 300,000, let's say 300,000 to exit. Based on the resale year-on-year performance of 3%, my dear friends, it might not be so easy for you to exit at this kind of price, even in 4 years' time, or maybe even beyond. So the duration here is unknown. The year-on-year, yes, on an average is there. However, you need to remember always this group of people, how aligned are they to sell at the next higher than higher price. Okay, and this is the kind of resale risk we are looking at. Of course, if it's very much for own stay, we would also advise you for own stay. Some certain tips that we want to advocate for own stay is this. Hey, spelling, Number one, find out how much they bought. So why? Then there's room to negotiate. Second thing, find out the trend of sale, which determines the unity of the owners. Because many reasons why some owners want to exit and move on, some owners want to hold on to the property and maintain the growth, many reasons. And of course, thirdly, for own stay, you want to be very careful with your reno cost, because 100,000 reno versus a 250,000 reno can mean very different exit price in the future. So yes, having said that, my name is Paul here. I'm always putting people above property. The people behind the property is most important. You are most important. The trust to move forward within transaction and eventually align you and your partner's family's direction. Okay, always have an exit plan in mind so that in the event when you all want to progress, exit, and move on, you are always ready because you have already done your due diligence. Anyway, thanks for staying throughout the video. These 3 books changed my life: The Timeless Gift, Property Wealth System, and the book that I wrote by me, yes, also to share on my property progression journey and how you can embark on a successful career in real estate if you are keen. Scan the QR code, download these free ebooks to enrich your personal progression life. Okay, very happy to be sharing this pocket-sized video with you all. I'll see you all for the next video, and I hope you all learned something today. Cheers.